if the Good Samaritan is going to come in for the purposes of being a Good Samaritan, but if they're coming in to mine and leave a worse mess, what safeguards are there to be able to preclude that from happening?
Well, again, the Good Samaritan guidance is intended to be for a pure Good Samaritan.
Purely.
So meaning someone who is going there to address the risk from that site. You know, if it's going to be mining, then there's got to be a separate process to deal with the mining situation and closure requirements and all of that. So it had to be done separately, if I understand your question.
Well, if we're going to allow the Good Samaritan to have an opportunity to go in and clean up, how are you going to build something separate to address anybody coming in, another mining company wanting to come in to reopen the mine or be able to mine around the existing mine and create a problem for the future of leaching or leaking or being able to contaminate some of the streams and the rivers?
So just in terms of the Good Samaritan project itself, so you would have an agreement and a work plan to deal with, you know, it could be a consolidation, it could be encapsulation, but if the entity were to separately do mining operations, that would not be covered, and the protections would not be accorded for that mining activities.
How would you define Good Samaritan then? Somebody doing out of their goodwill, who's going to pay for it? Where's the Good Samaritan getting the funding to be able to go in and do that cleanup?
Well, I mean, Good Samaritan, and we identified factors in our guidance. There has to be someone who's not responsible for that site, no affiliation with who is responsible for that mining site. Okay? Did that answer your question?
Yes, but who's paying for that?
Well, I'm sorry, the Good Samaritan would have to pay for that. That's why it's relatively small projects as compared to some of the large projects that that EPA has had to step in with hundreds of millions of dollars.
Will this be defined in being able to determine how a Good Samaritan should act in cleaning up?
Yeah, so the project would be defined, the activities would be defined.
Keeping it from making it worse is my point.
Yeah, so the activities to lessen the risk and to consolidate, that would be defined as part of the agreement process.
It would allow them to do mining?
No.
Just a cleanup?
Just a cleanup.
And that is going to be defined?
Yes.
Okay. Well, any of these companies foreign-owned that we can go back to their origin of being able to be the PRPs?
For the abandoned mines?
Yes, sir.
Again, when we get involved, you know, we would first look at responsible parties. But again, some of these mines have been abandoned as much as 100 years ago. So, you know, it is very likely those entities are not around. So.
Well, that's probably very true. Now, there's a couple of other questions I had, and it has to do, and I think my colleague, the chairman, indicated about the contractors and their qualification. Since you may not have all the required mining engineers on staff, the contracts you have, you ensure that they are individuals who can deal, who have done it before, who will continue to be able to be responsible and reliable.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, EPA is not doing mining activities. We're not engineering the conduct of mining operations. What we're doing is doing cleanup. You know, so we clearly have expertise in cleanup, be it a mining site or any other chemical waste management site. We have that expertise.
Yeah. But the EPA is only the cleanup, but isn't it also true that the governor of the state should be able to allow that Pacific mine to go on Superfund, to be able to effectively put funding into it, taxpayer funds?
I'm not sure I fully understand your question. I mean, with respect to...
This is not on the Superfund list. The gold mine was not on the Superfund list.
That's right. There's been conversations. It was not on the national priorities list for a long-term cleanup. That is right, yeah. And so there's ongoing discussions with the governor and the local stakeholders about their perspectives on whether it should be listed or not.
Well, we want to be sure, or at least I would hope that we try to protect the taxpayer from having to end up cleaning up abandoned mines when there might be possibility of being able to find the potential responsible parties, the PRPs, and ensure that you have enough funding to be able to carry out the cleanup, but with the cooperation of not only the state and the mining interests. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hardy.